Hello and welcome to the fourth in the series of videos looking at the old Southwold Railway line between Halesworth and Southwold in Suffolk. In this last part we're going to look at the line from Walberswick to Southwold Station and also the Harbour Branch. Now as we move along the path from Walberswick towards Southwold, the old alignment joins in from the left, and we are now actually on the old alignment again. And we progress onto this embankment, which was repaired and widened after flood damage in 2008. And we have Tinker's Marsh on the left-hand side and Squires Hill on the right-hand side. On the approach to Southwold, the railway first had to cross the River Blythe. This was achieved by the provision of a fixed span plus a swing portion with a span of 146 feet of wrought iron bowstring girder construction, the turning centre being on a wrought iron cylinder. This was rebuilt in 1907 at considerable cost as part of a widening and strengthening programme to allow conversion to standard gauge if required, but this never happened. And here we have the present Bailey Bridge, which replaced the former one in 1977. The iron columns of the original are still in situ, as you can see here. And this is the other side of the river now, looking back towards Walberswick. The harbour is to the left-hand side. And we're back on the track the other side. Now before we progress, in this field, just after the bridge, you might just be able to make out a mark in the field, a long curved mark, round to near those buildings. And that is the curve of the old Harbour Branch line. So while we look at an aerial shot of that curvature that we've just seen in that field, a little bit of history. In order to relieve congestion at Lowestoft Harbour, the improvement of Southwold Harbour was considered. And in 1914, after much argument and procrastination, a branch was constructed to Southwold Harbour. This involved a trailing connection and short head shunt just after the bridge. The single-track branch then descended and levelled out to run for 1 mile parallel with the eastern bank of the River Blythe. So this is the road that was in the last shot at the bottom of the picture, and this is where the railway crossed the road on the level, just about where those puddles are at the bottom of the dip there. And now moving on to the right of that last shot, along the harbour, the railway was on the left-hand side, and this is the end of the branch. Here there was a run-round loop, a shed, and a second-hand Paye weighbridge, converted from standard gauge. The harbour really was just essentially concrete piers either side of the river mouth and a jetty. Unfortunately, the line came too late to capitalise on the fishing industry, and it closed along with the rest of the railway. After the Harbour Branch line had curved round and down to run parallel with the river, there was a trailing connection into Blackshaw Quay. Now in 1998 there was still evidence of rails and a stop block, but now along here is where it was supposed to be, but I couldn't find anything, and there were so many boats and jetties and bits of wood sticking out, it was very difficult to see if there was any evidence of the old line into the quay. So anyway, let's go back up onto the main line now. Okay, back on the main line, and after passing the junction for the Harbour Branch, the line crossed Wood's End and Bus Creek marshes before climbing at 1 in 70 through a 40-foot deep cutting. And here we are at the beginning of the cutting now. Now soon we'll see evidence of a footbridge that was constructed of scrap rails in 1902. There's some steps down to where the footbridge was. And on the other side there's an abutment as well. This bridge was demolished in 1973. And we continue in the cutting towards Southwold. The line then continued past the golf course and Southwold Common. Here we are, the line is on the right hand side. There we're outside the Southwold Railway steamworks that we saw in part 1. And the actual old track bed is to the right in that foliage. Here it is, it's still on the right hand side, but as we move down the track, our track actually crosses over the old alignment, and the old track bed would have been shortly on the left hand side of our track, and Southwold Common is to the right. So here we are further along the track and nearly to the site of the old Southwold Station. Just ahead there on the left, there's the Station Hotel, or the Blythe Hotel. And here we have in this shot the site of Southwold Railway Station, where this old police station is. Even the police station is shut now, I think. And next door was a fire station on the site of the old yard, but that's been demolished as well. So, Southwold Station, 8 miles and 63 chains from Halesworth. This was the headquarters of the railway. It had a single long tree-shaded platform, locomotive and carriage sheds, and eventually various other facilities, a bookstall and even electric lighting. Also a run-round loop, 2 sidings, later expanded to 5, and the loop was also lengthened. Opposite the station was the Station Hotel, later called the Blythe Hotel. Southwold was a small fishing and trading port, but also a popular resort. It was situated, as we have seen, at the mouth of the River Blythe, a navigable stream which wound its way across the marshes from Halesworth to become a tidal estuary in its lowest reaches. The coming of the railway to Southwold was a momentous change for the town. Fish and dairy products could speedily be sent to market, and general goods likewise brought in. And the town as a holiday resort also prospered, and house building increased. In 1902, a railway order authorised an extension to Kessingland, where it would join the Great Eastern Railway branch from Lowestoft to Kessingland, and then the gauge would be converted to standard. But many opposed the line, one of the main objections being the crossing of many roads. But regardless of this, there were inadequate funds for the gauge conversion, without which the extension could not go ahead. In 1923, the newly formed LNER offered to purchase the railway, but the Southwold Railway turned it down. How different things might have been if this had occurred. Then in 1928, Southwold Corporation allowed coaches to pick up passengers within its boundaries, and the railway lost the majority of its passenger traffic, even after reducing its fares. So unless the corporation or LNER could help the railway, it was doomed. No help was forthcoming, and so on the 11th of April 1929 the railway closed. The final train departing Southwold at 17:25 and returning at 19:02. During the Second World War, the railway was finally demolished, but the actual company was not wound up until 1960. So that concludes our look at the old Southwold Railway. It would be easy to dismiss this railway as just a silly little Titfield Thunderbolt type railway. But at one time it was carrying 100,000 passengers a year and 15,000 tons of goods. It also made a profit year on year up to 1926, when it made its first loss. Well, it's been an interesting journey, and I must say, I for one am sorry it is still not running. These cartoons, by the way, were drawn by a local artist, Reg Carter. Okay, well, that's it from me, and I'll just say thanks for watching.